9 words from 90s television shows ended up in dictionaries, on merchandise, and coming out of the mouths of people who'd never even watched the shows they came from. If you grew up in the 90s, you didn't just watch these shows. You spoke them. You quoted them at school. You wore them on t-shirts that probably got you sent to the principal's office. And you heard them so many times that they stopped being TV lines and just became the way people talked. So today, we're counting down 10 catchphrases from 90s television that didn't just entertain us. They literally rewired American English. One of these phrases made it into the Oxford English Dictionary. Another was voted the funniest TV phrase of all time, and several of them generated billions of dollars in merchandise. Billions. With a B. Here's the wild part though. The 90s might have been the last decade capable of producing catchphrases this powerful. Back then, 20 to 30 million people watched the same episodes on the same night. No streaming, no binge watching. Just one massive shared cultural moment, week after week after week. Cultural critics call this the monoculture era. It stretched from about the 60s through the end of the 90s. And then, cable fragmented everything. The internet exploded, and suddenly there was no more water cooler where everyone gathered to quote the same lines. So think of this video as a time capsule, a love letter to the last golden age of the shared catchphrase. If you're ready to feel some serious nostalgia, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's count these down. Number 10. The truth is out there.
And no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
We're kicking things off with a phrase that technically isn't even spoken by a character. It's displayed during every single opening credit sequence of The X-Files, which premiered on Fox in 1993. But here's the thing. Those 5 words transcended the show completely. The truth is out there became shorthand for skepticism, for questioning official narratives, for that nagging feeling that something's being hidden from you. Time magazine's Richard Corliss called The X-Files the cultural touchstone of the 90s, and this tagline captured the decade's growing distrust of institutions perfectly. The phrase showed up on posters, t-shirts, bumper stickers. It got parodied everywhere. The Simpsons did their own X-Files episode in 1997 called The Springfield Files, and they actually got David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson to voice their own characters. What makes this catchphrase special is that it wasn't funny. It wasn't sarcastic. It was almost philosophical, and somehow that made it even more quotable. Number 9. Schwing.
She's a babe! Schwing! Ari, 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 ari.
Wayne's World started as a Saturday Night Live sketch on February 18th, 1989. Mike Myers played Wayne Campbell. Dana Carvey played Garth, 2 metalhead slackers broadcasting a public access show from Wayne's basement in Aurora, Illinois. The sketch spawned the 1992 film, which introduced Schwing to mainstream audiences. In case you somehow missed the 90s entirely, Schwing is what Wayne exclaims upon seeing an attractive woman. It's immature, it's ridiculous, and it was absolutely everywhere in 1992. But Wayne's World didn't just give us one catchphrase, it gave us a whole vocabulary. Excellent! Party on. We're not worthy. And of course the negating not, which got so overused it basically killed itself. Time magazine called these gifts to the English language. That might be generous, but they weren't wrong about the impact. The movie's Bohemian Rhapsody headbanging scene sent Queen's song back to number 2 on the US charts, 17 years after it was originally released. Mattel even put out a Wayne's World VCR board game with 30 minutes of new footage, and Myers and Carvey came back for the SNL 40th Anniversary Special in 2015, proving that some things never stop being excellent. Number 8. Homey, don't play that.
I don't think so. Homie, don't play that.
In Living Color premiered on Fox in 1990, and it changed sketch comedy forever. The show launched the careers of Jim Carrey, Jamie Foxx, and Jennifer Lopez. But one of its most enduring contributions to pop culture was Damon Wayans' character, Homey D. Clown. Homey was a convicted felon forced to work as a children's party clown as part of his parole. His real name was Herman Simpson, and his signature move? Hitting people with a weighted sock while delivering his catchphrase. Homey don't play that. The real inspiration was comedian Paul Mooney, Richard Pryor's writing partner. Whenever writers pitched ideas Mooney found racist or beneath him, he'd react with, "Oh, Homey don't play that." Show creator Keenen Ivory Wayans confirmed that Paul didn't create the character, but he was absolutely the inspiration for it. The phrase became shorthand for a firm, playful refusal. A way of saying, "I'm not doing that," with serious attitude. The Simpsons directly referenced it in their episode, Homey the Clown. And in 2018, David Peisner wrote an entire book about In Living Color's cultural impact. The title, Homey Don't Play That. Number 7, We Were on a Break.
We were on a break!
Coffee house?
You bet.
Let's talk about the debate that outlasted the show. In the season 3 episode, the one where Ross and Rachel take a break, Rachel suggests she and Ross take a break from their relationship. Ross interprets this as a breakup. He sleeps with another woman. And for the remaining 7 seasons of Friends, he defends himself with 5 words that would echo through pop culture for decades. We were on a break. Ross said this line about 9 times across the series, including in the finale. But the phrase sparked something way bigger than a running gag. It ignited an actual cultural debate that psychologists and relationship experts have analyzed for years. Was Ross technically right? Were they broken up or just taking space? People still argue about this. The phrase trends regularly on social media. It shows up on tons of merchandise, and it demonstrates something fascinating about 90s catchphrases. They could encode complex social arguments in just a few words. Number 6. Oh my God, they killed Kenny.
Oh my God, they killed Kenny!
South Park premiered on Comedy Central on August 13th, 1997. That first episode was watched by 990,000 viewers. Not exactly a massive number, but word spread fast. Every episode followed the same dark ritual. Kenny McCormick would die in some horrible way. Stan would shout, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny!" And Kyle would respond, "You bastards." But here's what most people don't know. This gag actually predates the TV series. In a 1992 short film called The Spirit of Christmas, Jesus vs. Frosty, created by Trey Parker and Matt Stone at the University of Colorado, a character named Kenny gets killed, and someone shouts, "Oh my God, Frosty killed Kenny." A 1995 sequel was commissioned by a Fox executive for just $2,000 as a video Christmas card. That short became one of the first viral videos ever. It spread through bootleg copies and early internet file sharing before the show even existed. The real Kenny was based on Parker's childhood friend, also named Kenny. He was the poorest kid in the neighborhood and wore an orange parka that made him impossible to understand. The real Kenny would skip school so often that his classmates joked he had died. Then he'd just show up again days later. Parker and Stone confirmed that when Kyle yells, "You bastards," he's actually directing it at them, the writers, for killing Kenny yet again. By season 5, they were exhausted by the gag. Stone told a newspaper in 2002 that he was sick of the character. In the episode Kenny Dies, Kenny actually develops terminal muscular dystrophy and dies seriously. This was inspired by a conversation with Monty Python's Terry Gilliam about making a completely serious episode. Kenny was supposed to stay dead, but Comedy Central executives demanded his return. partly because Kenny merchandise was extremely profitable. T-shirts, bumper stickers, a dead Kenny backpack, even a cutting board. Kenny features on the $25 gift card at the official Paramount shop, the lowest denomination, which is a joke about his poverty. Kenny has died about 126 times across the series. And in 2021, Parker and Stone signed a $900 million deal to extend the show through season 30 plus 14 movies. Number 5. Don't Have a Cow, Man.
Town.
Maybe we should move to a larger community.
No!
Don't have a cow, Dad.
Before Homer's dough became the Simpsons catchphrase, there was Bart. Don't have a cow wasn't invented by the show. It dates back to the 1950s, derived from the British phrase, don't have kittens. But Bart Simpson transformed it into the most commercially exploited catchphrase of the early 90s. An estimated 15 million Bart Simpson t-shirts sold in 1990 alone. The Don't Have a Cow Man shirt was priced around $11 to $14. But the real story here is what happened when those shirts showed up at schools. In April 1990, schools across America started banning Bart Simpson apparel. It began with a principal in Fremont, Ohio, who announced a ban targeting the underachiever and Proud of It Man shirt. The ban spread rapidly. Florida, California, Michigan, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Kentucky. Students were sent home, forced to turn shirts inside out. Teachers covered the offending words with tape. Some schools labeled the shirts as gang-related, which tells you everything about 1990 moral panic culture. JCPenney, which had created in-store Simpsons boutiques, pulled the underachiever and I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you? Shirts from children's sizes. Drug czar William Bennett told recovering addicts at a Pittsburgh treatment center not to watch The Simpsons, saying it wouldn't help them. President George H.W. Bush declared in 1992 that America needed families more like the Waltons and less like The Simpsons. Matt Groening's response to the school bans was perfect. He said his folks taught him to respect elementary school principals, even the ones who have nothing better to do than tell kids what to wear. A Bart Simpson Underachiever t-shirt now sits in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, and Time magazine named Bart Simpson one of the 100 most influential people of the 20th century, the only fictional character on the list. Oh, and Eat My Shorts? That was actually ad-libbed by voice actress Nancy Cartwright during an early table read. She got it from her high school marching band at Fairmont High School in Ohio, where the band would chant it instead of their regular cheer. Chasa number 4. Did I do that?
Did I do that?
Steve Urkel was only supposed to appear once. Family Matters premiered in 1989 as a spin-off of Perfect Strangers, focusing on the Winslow family. Urkel showed up in season 1, episode 12. Laura's First Date. It aired December 15th, 1989. 12-year-old Jaleel White played the nerdy neighbor with the high-pitched voice, the suspenders, and that iconic question. Did I do that? At the taping of that episode, fraternity boys in the studio audience started chanting, "Urkel, Urkel," after White's scenes. He was brought back before the episode even aired. By season 2, he was a series regular. The show literally added him to earlier episodes during syndication by filming new scenes. The catchphrase wasn't planned. White revealed on the Pod Meets World podcast that producers tried a million different catchphrases first. The first one they really tried was Steve bumping into a lamp, knocking it over and saying, "Excuse me." They also tried borrowing one, "I've fallen and I can't get up." They tested about 3 different options, and "Did I do that?" just stuck with audiences. The merchandise machine cranked up immediately. Urkel cereal launched in 1991 with strawberry and banana flavored rings. There were Urkel for President campaign buttons, a talking pull-string 17-inch Urkel doll from Hasbro, a Milton Bradley board game. Urkel crossed over to other TGIF shows, Full House in 1991, Step by Step, where he arrived via Rocket Pack, Boy Meets World. Rick and Morty later paid homage to the Urkel dance. Key and Peele produced an elaborate sketch mocking increasingly absurd Family Matters plots. But the character's dominance created real. Jamie Foxworth, who played Judy Winslow, was written out entirely. Jo Marie Payton, who played Harriet, grew frustrated and left mid-season during the final year. White himself had a complicated relationship with Urkel. In 1999, he said if anyone ever saw him do that character again, they should put a bullet in his head. But by 2011, he'd softened, explaining to Vanity Fair that the quote was taken out of context. He loved playing the character, but was trying to mature as a man. In 2020, Family Matters was watched for 11.4 billion minutes on streaming, up 392% from 2019. White released a memoir in November 2024, and Did I Do That? Still ranks on every major TV catchphrase list. Number 3, How You Doin?
I look a woman up and down and I say, hey, how you doing?
Here's a paradox for you. Joey Tribbiani said, How you doin? Fewer than 20 times across 236 episodes of Friends. That's it. Analyses counted about 19 uses, of which only 9 were successful as a pickup line, a 47% success rate if you're keeping track. And yet, it became one of the most recognizable catchphrases in television history. The line first appeared in Season 4, Episode 13, The One with Rachel's Crush. It aired January 29th, 1998, and it was scripted, not improvised. Written for an episode where Joey teaches Rachel his foolproof pickup technique. What made it stick wasn't repetition, it was delivery. Matt LeBlanc's timing, the eyebrow raise, the confident lean. It proved that character association can matter way more than how many times something is actually said. The phrase crossed into real-world use as both a genuine greeting and an ironic pickup line. Wendy Williams independently adopted How You Doin' as the opening of The Wendy Williams Show from 2008 to 2022, though she attributed her version to a Philadelphia radio character. LeBlanc reported being recognized in a cave in Morocco by a fan who asked him to deliver the line. A cave, Morocco. The Friends franchise generates enormous ongoing revenue. Netflix paid about $100 million per year for streaming rights. Warner Media paid $425 million for HBO Max rights. The show's finale pulled in 52.5 million viewers on May 6th, 2004. How You Doin? Ranked number 3 on the Paley Center's poll of TV's 50 funniest phrases, and number 4 on TV Guide's 60 greatest catchphrases. During the Friends reunion on HBO Max in 2021, it was a central feature. Sometimes it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. Number 2, Dough.
Oh, oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, no!
Here's a fact that might blow your mind. The Simpsons scripts have never actually contained the word dough. Every single time Homer makes that sound, the script just reads annoyed grunt in parentheses. That direction became so iconic that 4 episode titles actually incorporate it, including Simpson Califragilistic, Expiala, Annoyed Grunttious. Dan Castellaneta improvised the sound based on a Scottish character actor named James Finlayson, who appeared in 33 Laurel and Hardy films. Back in the 1930s, under censorship rules, Finlayson would exclaim a drawn-out "doo" as a euphemism for damn. When Castellaneta first did it, show creator Matt Groening said they only had a minute, so he needed to speed it up. So Castellaneta shortened it to dough, and television history was made. The first full series use came in Simpsons roasting on an open fire on December 17th, 1989. About 13.4 million homes tuned in. On June 14th, 2001, the Oxford English Dictionary added DOA without the apostrophe. They defined it as expressing frustration at realizing things have turned out badly or not as planned. The OED editor-at-large said his staff found 31 examples of "dough" in formal use before including it. The Oxford Dictionary of English had actually added it even earlier, in 1998. 20th Century Studios now holds "dough" as a registered sound trademark. The economics are staggering. The Simpsons generated $2 billion in merchandise revenue in its first 14 months of sales. By 2013, consumer products had surpassed $4.6 billion. Over 500 companies were licensed globally. When TomTom offered a Homer Simpson GPS voice in 2009, it got downloaded 128,500 times in the US, the most downloaded GPS voice worldwide. Fans have documented Homer saying "dough" about 1,130 times across the series. Mark Lieberman, director of the Linguistic Data Consortium at the University of Pennsylvania, made a remarkable statement in 2005. He said, "The Simpsons has apparently taken over from Shakespeare and the Bible as our culture's greatest source of idioms, catchphrases, and textual allusions." Let that sink in. Shakespeare, the Bible, and Homer Simpson. Executive producer Al Jean had the perfect response when the dictionary inclusion was announced. He said when they found out they were putting it in the dictionary and the show wasn't getting any money, their reaction was, well, you know what it was. Number 1, yada yada yada.
Marcy comes over and she tells me that her ex-boyfriend was over late last night and yada yada yada, I'm really tired today.
The funniest TV phrase of all time. That's not my opinion. That's what viewers voted when the Paley Center for Media ran their definitive poll of TV's 50 funniest phrases. Yada 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 took the number 1 spot. The episode was called The Yada Yada. Season 8, Episode 19 of Seinfeld. It aired April 24th, 1997. George Costanza starts dating a woman named Marcy, played by Suzanne Cryer, who uses the phrase to gloss over inconvenient details in her stories, including, it turns out, shoplifting. Here's the thing though, Seinfeld didn't invent this phrase. Merriam-Webster traces its first known use to 1980, with roots in the Scottish word yatter, meaning idle talk, going back to 1827. Comedian Lenny Bruce used a version on his 1961 album. Robert Pirsig wrote Yada Yada in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance in 1974. What Seinfeld did was redefine it as a comedic device for deliberate omission, and that usage exploded into everyday speech. Co-writer Jill Franklin had kept notes reminding herself to play with blah blah blah. When she combined that with co-writer Peter Millman's memory of an editor who used yada yada, the iconic version was born. Franklin's only prior writing credit was greeting cards. Larry David had read her spec script and told her she could pitch. The episode also featured Bryan Cranston as Dr. Tim Whatley and Deborah Messing. Jerry Seinfeld kept breaking into laughter. During filming at Julia Louis-Dreyfus's delivery of "No, I mentioned the bisque," NBC let the episode run longer than the standard 23 minutes and promoted this in advertising. Mellman and Franklin were nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Writing in a comedy series. Mellman told Franklin to get her tuxedo ready, and he was right. Though they likely would have won if Ellen DeGeneres' Coming Out episode hadn't aired the same year. Merriam-Webster defines yada yada as boring or empty talk, often used when recounting words regarded as too dull or predictable to be worth repeating. Random House includes yada yada yada, defined as blah blah blah. In 2020, Australian scientists named a newly discovered virus the yada yada virus as a deliberate Seinfeld reference. July 23rd is now recognized as International Yada Yada Day. Actress Suzanne Cryer reflected on the aftershock years later. She said that more than 20 years after the episode aired, she'd done more interviews about Seinfeld than anything else in her career. When she was the lead of a Neil Simon play in New York, she was relatively unknown, but every night she heard audience members whispering yada 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 to each other. The Seinfeld franchise has generated an estimated $5 billion total across syndication, streaming, and merchandise. Netflix paid over $500 million for streaming rights in 2019. The finale drew 76.3 million viewers on May 14, 1998. A 30-second ad during that episode cost $2 million. Beyond yada yada yada, Seinfeld gave us No Soup for You, Master of My Domain, Double Dipping, Regifter, which is now in Merriam-Webster, Close Talker, Spongeworthy, Shrinkage, and Festivus. A linguistics professor at the University of Pennsylvania said it best. The Simpsons might have taken over from Shakespeare, but Seinfeld was right there with it, introducing more phrases to American English than perhaps any other single show. Conclusion. So what made the 90s the last golden age of the shared catchphrase? It wasn't just creativity, it was structure. NBC's must-see TV Thursday night lineup put Seinfeld, averaging 26.6 million viewers per season, and Friends, averaging 23.6 million, on the same night. The Simpsons peaked at 15 to 20 million viewers per episode. ABC's TGIF block delivered Family matters to millions of families at the same time. These audiences experienced the same moments at the same time. Linguists who've studied catchphrases built databases tracking 168 of them from 129 TV series spanning over 70 years. They found that catchphrases served as shared social currency, phrases that let strangers know they belong to the same tribe. A 2008 study found that 100% of participants reported using quotes from media in their everyday speech. 100%. The economics prove it. The Simpsons franchise is valued at about $12.3 billion. Seinfeld has generated an estimated $5 billion total. Friends has earned over $1.4 billion in syndication revenue alone. South Park's $900 million extension deal shows the enduring commercial power of catchphrase-bearing shows. These 10 catchphrases share something in common. They're short, they're rhythmically distinctive, and they encode specific emotional states. Frustration, dough, evasion, yada, yada, yada. Confidence, how you doing? Innocence, did I do that? Outrage, you bastards. Their creators often had no idea what they were creating. Peter Melman thought anti-dentite would be the quotable line from the Yada Yada episode. Family Matters producers tested 3 catchphrases before "Did I do that?" stuck. Dan Castellaneta was just speeding up a dead Scottish actor's euphemism for a curse word. What made these phrases permanent was an unreplicable combination: mass simultaneous viewership, repetition across seasons, and merchandise, saturation that embedded them into material culture. No streaming-era show has produced a catchphrase with comparable reach, and based on everything we know about how fragmented audiences have become, none likely will. The 90s didn't just produce great television catchphrases, it produced the last generation of them. And now, yada yada yada, this video is over. Thanks for watching. If this trip down memory lane hit you right in the nostalgia, drop a comment with your favorite catchphrase from the 90s. Even if we didn't cover it, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.